Hey, what's up everybody? This is Joshua Casper. I'm back at you with Isotonik Studios, and today we're taking a look at the DynaMixing One by PerforModule. We're going to do this video a little bit different than the other two that I've done so far for Isotonik, and this one we're just going to pretty much explore all of the different devices inside of the pack. The first thing I always like to do is come over to the pack, right click and show default lesson so I can see what the developer thinks is important for this particular pack. I've already went ahead and read this, but I highly suggest that you do the same either before or after you grab the pack because, it's really kind of enlightening as to what each one of these racks have been designed to do. I'm going to go ahead and X out of that and just go ahead and start dropping some of these modules onto this group I have and see if we can't figure out what they're aimed to do. So I got an EQ8 Tone Explorer, MS, and the MS stands for mid sidechain. That's pretty standard. Drop that on the group, and I've got a rack here, 8 macro knobs, and an EQ8, and that's pretty much it. So down here at the bottom, we have some pretty standard stuff. We got a low cut, and as you can see, the mid side is being cut differently. So this dark blue line is actually the mid EQ, and if we click this right here, we can see the side EQ. So the side EQ is actually getting a steeper cut than the mid, which is kind of standard, and it's really nice to be able just to come in and use this rack instead of having to go in and mess with both of them back and forth. This is moving them both in a similar fashion, but keeping the differences intact. Mud is going to be an increase in the lower frequencies. So if I pull that low cut all the way off, you can see that the low end's really getting boosted. Sparkle is going to be the high end, and obviously high cut is going to be doing the same thing as the low cut, but to the higher end of the frequencies. Scale is going to adjust how much of the EQ curve is applied to the track. So we can go from 200 to 0%. So here it's a flat line. If I go to 100, it's going to be, the values are going to stick to what they were. And if I go to 200, it's just going to be amplified. Whatever, gain I had is going to be double that 200%. Now the Explorer EQ is pretty cool because it allows you, let's put this back at 100%. It allows you to kind of, let me get rid of all this stuff. It allows you to kind of hone in on a certain frequency and then, decide where you'd like that to be boosted or cut. And it's just really a nice way to add a little bit of sparkle, add a little bit of shine, or get rid of some mud if that's what you're looking to do. The Tone Explorer 8 is the same thing, but in stereo mode instead of mid-side. So the sides and the mids are going to be cut in the same fashion as opposed to differently. Nifty EQ, let's check this out. Here we're looking at something similar. We got an EQ in here. Let's see. Okay, we got some pretty intricate mapping going on. Sub lift is going to lift at that subby low end right there. Low mids boost. As you can see, it's actually boosting up and moving to the left. So that's pretty neat. High mids boost is doing the same thing. It's lifting up and moving to the right. And presence lift is going to be moving the upper frequencies up. So if I pull this down, you can see that sub is boosting it like that, and the presence lift is boosting it over there on the high end. Low cut, pretty self-explanatory. High cut, pretty self-explanatory. And I think this is going to, this is going to adjust the decibel cutoff shelf. So right here, we're looking at, I think it's 6 dB. I don't remember exactly. It's 12 dB cut, and if I crank this up, it's actually going to go to 48 dB. So it's going to be a much steeper wall right there for the low cut, and the high cut's going to do the same thing. And that's going to happen. It's only 2 states, and it's going to be switched after 64. So once you get to 64 and move, it's going to switch between the 2 different cutoff styles. The next thing we have is the instrument strip. So that's why I have a track in here. These are specifically not descriptive. They all have a kind of a similar thing. They got the low cut and the high cut, but then they also have some neat characteristics that they can add to a track, and they're all unique. And instead of labeling them like, flange and amp, they just named it blue. And I think there's a good quality to that. Like, you have to drop it onto the track and play around with it and see what it does, rather than just thinking, oh, I don't really want a flange. But after you drop it on the track and play with the knob, maybe you decide a flange does sound a little bit good. So let's just go ahead and listen to the track and play with some of these macro knobs to see what's going on. Let's go ahead and jump on to the next one, from blue to green. And here we've got similar things. We got low, high cut, we got the preamp, the denoise, passion, and depth. And now we have a corpus amount and corpus tone, which is going to add a little bit of ringing to certain frequencies in the track. So let's go ahead and play around with this and see what it sounds like. So as you can see there, it's actually added what sounds like toms maybe to the actual rhythm of the drum track there, or that range of frequencies. And I think that's pretty cool. These might not be the best on the full track itself, like what I'm doing here, I'm just dropping it onto the group. But maybe something like this might be better on just, say, the percussion line or something like that. But moving forward, we got the indigo. And here we're looking at a delay, it looks like. That's some pretty cool sounds on there. Let's actually drop that indigo onto just this vocal line for some, I think that might work. That's the indigo. Let's check out this orange one. Again, we got a vincoder, which I'm guessing is going to be the vocoder device, and again, some delay. Let's drop that on the vocal lead again and see what happens. So that's a really nice delay preset, and this vincoder really is giving it a vintage sound. So I was actually wrong thinking it was going to be a vocoder. It's actually trying to give it a vintage sound, and it really works really well, because instead of looking inside of the rack, I actually just heard what it was doing, and notice the VIN is vintage, not vocoder. So moving forward, we got red, resoverb. That sounds interesting. That's really cool. And you might notice that I'm kind of staying away from opening up these racks, because they're all made with Ableton Live devices, and if I open too many of them, people will just start making them by themselves. I think it's better if we just get a sense of what the racks do to the audio than exactly how they're made. Let's check out the violet. Cool, cool, cool. Let's check out the yellow one, which is going to be the last one in these instrument channel strips here. And we got glitch, and I love glitch, so let's see what these do. Pretty cool, man. They'll definitely be able to tweak some of those and get some nice fills and repeats that are a little bit different than just that same loop over and over again. Really cool with that yellow one there. And the last thing we're going to do is check out the mastering and mixing set here. Brainless hybrid compression. This one's actually pretty cool. I checked this out earlier. This is going to compress your track, and it's either going to be a fully digital style compression or a fully analog style compression, or you can actually go in between the two of them. So I think that's pretty sweet. So maybe the analog sounds a little bit warmer than the digital is a little bit cleaner, and some might say a little bit harsher, but you know, that's totally subjective. But that's a pretty cool way to switch back and forth between the two to see which one sounds better on the particular track you're working on. Let's jump into this next one. We're gonna look at Compify. It's a one knob compressor. Pushing the sound really nice. It's not getting too harsh until we get too far on the knob here. Next one, we're gonna look at Dynamify. Again, it's gonna be, it's looking like a 3-band compressor of some sort, and we can compress these different bands differently, and we can also adjust how much of the signal is getting compressed, so we can go parallel if we want. Quite a lot going on right here. Let's see what it sounds like here. So as you can see, that's actually, with just a little bit of tweaking, it's already making the track sound a lot tighter and a lot louder, and I really like that one. So that's a 3-band compressor of some sort. Fadeify. Let's see what this does. Let's open this one up and look at it, because, all right. This is essentially just a utility gain control here. Gateify, it's going to be some sort of gate, obviously. Pretty cool. Gluify is, I'm guessing, hinting at it's going to get a glue compressor inside of it. Pretty cool. Again, it sounded really nice without a lot of distortion or anything like going on until we get too high up the, you know, the parameters value here. But there's definitely a sweet spot for this particular track around 80. But that's really nice that this one knob is controlling a number of different parameters, and it still sounds really good up until we get too far into the compression state. But we can rest assured that the value mapping is pretty good, because it sounds pretty good, just like the other one did there, the Compify. Side rump. Now I have no idea what this is, so let's just crank that knob to see what happens. So it says set sidechain source. So I got to come in and set sidechain. So let's see. Instead of having it on the group, let's put it on the bass. Let's set the sidechain to the kick, which is right here. Oh, I didn't put it on the bass. I put it on the brass. My mistake. Cool. So it's essentially like a one knob sidechain compressor module that's really going to give it a nice pumping sound, or a rump sound. And squishify. Again, let's put that back on the group, unsolo that. Okay, so I want to make a couple of notes for you guys. When you get a pack like this that's got user-made intricate effects racks or instrument racks, it's always kind of a good idea just to really crank from 0 to 100% to get a better idea of what's happening to the sound, and then maybe go all the way to, you know, for instance here, high squash 127, and really understand what's happening, and then slowly go back down. That's just a good way to do it, especially when you're mixing and mastering and adding, you know, little intricate things to your mix and the overall sound. That's just a good way to do it, because sometimes the ears will get tricky when you're making small adjustments to the audio. Another thing is you always want to just come into the rack and look and see what kind of devices are inside of it. Here I got a multi-band DynaMix, and it's good to know what's inside of it. Sometimes you don't always need to know. If you just tweak a knob and it sounds great, then you're good to go. But don't be afraid to get inside of these racks and kind of see what's going on and see what this time scaling is actually moving here. We got it right here. Another way to really see what's going on, especially when the racks are really involved, you got racks inside of racks inside of racks, is hit that map mode. And I know it might look a little bit scary, but for anyone who's ever been inside of that, it's pretty self-explanatory. It shows you the name of the macro knob and then the path to what it's controlling. So here the path is multiband dynamics because there's only the multiband dynamics inside of there. But then you have what the parameter name of the multiband dynamics is being affected by what macro. And Isotonik have done a good job of naming everything really clean and also color coding, so it makes things a lot easier to get in and maybe change minimum and maximum amounts, or just to be able to see what each macro knob is controlling, as opposed to moving the macro knob and trying to see what's happening inside of the device itself. And there's the last one, squishify. So we had squashify, now we got squishify, and this one's really kind of honed down to one knob. Let's see what this sounds like here. Again, we just got a multi-band dynamics that's being processed, and look, it's moving all three bands at the same time. It's moving the amount, it's moving the frequency, cutoff points, or the frequency split points. It's doing a real lot, just this one knob, and it's pretty cool. I kind of like it around halfway, but again, with any of these racks, each track's going to be different. Some of them are going to work better on groups, some of them are going to work better on master buses, some of them are going to work better on individual tracks, but that's for you to decide. This video is just kind of show you each one of the racks and kind of get an idea of what is going on, but I recommend them. Check them out. Isotonik Studios. We'll see you next time. Peace.